Last year, in a video about the worst rated films on IMDb, I talked about Alone in the Dark from legendary filmmaker Uwe Boll. It's got a bit of a reputation, to say the least, but I don't really know if most people are aware that it has a sequel. So we're going to take a look at this short timeline here and see if it makes any sense, or if what am I even saying? Like, anything about this movie is gonna make a bit of sense. Back in 2005, Alone in the Dark was released from film auteur Uwe Boll. An opening text crawl talks about the discovering of the Abkhani in 1967, a native civilization that unleashed dark forces onto the world 10,000 years ago, and the government group created to track down their artifacts. The head of the group, Lionel Hudgens, broke off and started creating mutants called Sleepers, and yeah, that's a lot to take in before a movie even starts, dude. And just think, that bit was added because audiences were confused by the movie, so that text scrawl was supposed to clear things up, and yeah, not so much. 22 years ago, we find out that one of those sleepers vanished, and also a creature attacks an orphanage, and then it's present day, and Edward here is ready to pump up the volume while gleaming his cube with a broken arrow in a true romance. He says that something bad happened that erased his memory when he was 10, and that was the 22 years ago thing, so he's 32 now. And Brendan Fletcher cameos, and Bunny Lebowski is here as an archaeologist, and I challenged Tara Reid to spell archaeologist. And there's also a big coffin found in the ocean that has something inside that kills a bunch of people. And yeah, I see how people needed that opening text, because I still don't see how it clears anything up. Deacon Frost is here, and Edward says that he was recruited at 20, so 12 years ago, and it turns out that all the kids from his orphanage are disappearing. That night at the museum, a thing that PlayStation 2 looked at and was like, no, I didn't have anything to do with that, shows up and attacks. And later, during an autopsy of a guy killed earlier, they say he's a 713 agent who went MIA 20 years ago, and the screen says that he went missing in 1983. So we're set in 2003 here, which means that the orphanage incident happened in 1981, and Edward was born in 71.
I'm close to the truth. I know it.
You are? Because I'm not. I have no idea what's going on here. 45 minutes in, and there's absolutely no semblance of a plot here. And then if you think you have it figured out, well, then there's people infected with worm things that are attacking, and then really awkwardly shot gunfights in the dark. And did I mention that this, like a bunch of Boll films, was based on a video game? This movie was sort of an adaptation of the fourth entries of a series called A New Nightmare, but Wes Craven pretty much just giggled at that notion. They all end up at an abandoned mine under the orphanage, and the creatures attack, wiping pretty much everyone out, and it's discovered that Edward was one of the test subjects, and they're confronted by Lionel, who opens the gateway to release all the creatures. Burke sacrifices himself to blow up the door and stop the creature, but when Edward and Aline head to the surface, all the people are evacuated and the city is empty. And something attacks them, leaving it all on a cliffhanger. Well, not only was that not a hit, but it is considered one of the worst movies ever made, and only brought in $12 million at the box office when it cost around $20. But for some reason, some cosmically confusing reason, 3 years later, in 2008, a sequel was made with Alone in the Dark 2. Boll didn't return to direct, but did produce it, and it starts off in present day, so presumably '08. And Zach Ward, who's usually in Boll's flicks but wasn't in the first one of these, shows up to scut Farkas the place up. The trio busts in and stash something in the toilets, but they have some sort of infection, and a creature comes in and kills them all. It's 3 days later, and everything seems normal, so I guess whatever apocalypse they were hinting at the ending of the last film didn't happen, and Xavier survived. Edward is here, but he's now more fast and furious, and I guess he switched ethnicities in between movies? They're concerned about this dagger that Xavier says belongs to a witch, and Edward gets stabbed by it, so Chop Top shows up with freaking Ralph Moeller and Trejo's Tacos, which I have been to, and they're pretty damn good. They take him out to a cabin where the infection spreads, so they call up old Frank Black, who's married to PJ Soles. And this one was directed by Michael Roche and Peter Shearer, who were producers on a bunch of Bull films and directed one film before this, and then this, and then nothing else. The witch shows up and kills Dexter and is trying to get to Natalie, and yeah, this has absolutely no connection to the previous film, except for the character of Edward Carnby. It can be argued that this is a separate continuity, especially with the recasting, but there's no reason to think that this can't just be in the same universe. They fight the witch, seemingly killing her, but oops, they weren't supposed to do that, and she takes Natalie out, but they stab her with the dagger, stopping the hag in a pretty unclimactic way. So yeah, with no other dating, let's just take their present day note literally and set this one in 2008, 5 years after the first one. And that apocalypse that kind of seemed to happen, it was just an evacuated city and nothing was attacking them, sure, fine, whatever. So there you have it, 2 movies that do not have continuity. They are completely unconnected. You could watch either one of these and not watch the other, and it is fine. If you only watch the second one, you do not need the first movie to understand what is happening. I think if you watch the first movie, you might understand what is happening less because you're trying to figure out what all those things were. It's the most nonsensical thing that I've ever seen. And I wish it was a little bit more entertaining because it's not quite like House of the Dead where it's like so bad it's fun. It's just kind of dull. But there's a couple of things that are, I guess, partially amusing, I suppose. I don't know. If you've seen these and enjoy them or don't enjoy them or you think they're terrible, whichever, tell me down below in the comments. If you have a simplified version of what is going on in the first movie, if you can explain it in, say, 2 sentences, give it a try. Make it a haiku. I want to see a haiku about what Alone in the Dark is about. And also, please like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. And please go to my Patreon page at patreon.com/movietimelines where you can help support these channels. My channel, like these guys over here do. I appreciate them, and I appreciate you for coming back and watching these videos. And I'll see you very shortly for another great one. Thanks a lot, guys, and bye-bye.